On and off the court, WNBA star Caitlin Clark now speaking out.
There's obviously a lot of people that like to comment on my character and think that they know me.
The Indiana Fever guard facing criticism for her fouls and aggressive play, now leaving her one incident away from a single-game suspension.
That intensity and that fire is what makes me me.
Fever coach Stephanie White.
She knows. She has awareness.
But Clark was the subject of recent headlines last month when Phoenix Mercury player Alyssa Thomas received a one-game penalty and fine for appearing to put her fist over Clark's throat after she fell to the floor. The flagrant foul imposed after the game following a review by the league. Thomas getting death threats in the aftermath, Clark condemning the calls for violence.
It should have been dealt with in the moment.
And after a recent USA Today opinion piece described Clark's behavior on the court when fouls aren't called on her opponents as histrionics and a sign of her flopping, Clark fighting back.
I think there's just like a false characterization of who I am.
And hearing these encouraging words from a famous fan during the WNBA All-Star Weekend practice in Chicago.
Caitlin, how are you? Really nice to meet you. You're great. You're fantastic.
Thank you.
Former President Barack Obama telling Clark to ignore the noise.
Don't let all this nonsense get you down.
It was cool to hear that from him. Honestly, it's probably a good reminder for all of us of treating people with respect, treating people with grace.
Valerie Cap.
Treat people with respect and treat people with grace. These are all things that have just happened just in the last 30 days. Now, we can go back to 2024, Caitlin Clark's rookie season, and go through every single thing that's happened from 2024 over the last 2 to 3 years to today, but we'll be here for days, right? The amount of times the WNBA has dropped the ball and failed to seize the moment and their rapid growth is mind-boggling. In 2026, you would think that they would have their act together and really make a valid attempt to grow this league as a basketball league. That hope has quickly gone. Just in this last month, enough has happened just in this last month alone to where this league is in the worst place, mainstream, narrative-wise, than it's ever been before. And it was probably been worse before all the eyeballs have been on it, but it's worse now because all the eyeballs are on it. You have millions of people now watching this league. And what is happening now in 2026 is a major, major, major failure from Kathy Engelbert and the leadership of this WNBA league, this organization. It's absolutely absurd the way they are treating their star player, where if any other league would lean in and capitalize on what their star players bring into the league, eyeballs, money, popularity, etc., etc., etc. No, the WNBA is a complete opposite. And what you saw in that intro video just touches the surface. So we're going to get into that USA Today article. We're going to get into the author of that article rolling it back. We're going to get into the Alyssa Thomas foul. We're going to get into what happened to Sophie Cunningham recently. We're going to get into how apparently Caitlin Clark is responsible for speaking up for all the hate everyone around the league gets. Meanwhile, she actually had a stalker in real life who is currently still sitting in jail. But no one talks about all the hate she gets online, right? She's always the one at fault, and everyone else is the victim. And that is the biggest marketing failure that I have ever witnessed in my entire life, is what the WNBA is doing to their biggest star, drawing the eyeballs to this league, how she is being treated, and you have not once heard the WNBA commissioner or even her own coach stand up for her and the hate she gets. It's always her being asked to speak up about the hate everyone else gets. No one, not one time, has a reporter asked her how she's doing. What is she dealing with? How is she dealing with it? No, It's what do you think of XYZ player, and what do you have to say about that? That is the biggest marketing failure. That is the biggest marketing failure. And outside of me being a WNBA fan, I've been around since this league started in the 90s. I fell off in the early 2000s. I was a huge Cheryl Swoops fan. I had her poster on my wall, right? Back when this league started. I fell off in the 90s, came back when I saw Caitlin Clark her sophomore and a junior year. I've been following it ever since. And it's been a huge disappointment from a marketing standpoint and how this league has been treating Caitlin Clark and anyone around Caitlin Clark, meaning her teammates. So without further ado, let's get into this USA Today article, which is absolutely going to make my head hurt. Probably make your head hurt. and I apologize in advance because this is going to be awful. All right. Hopefully you all can see this here. So this is the USA Today article that came out July 22nd by Nancy Armour. Sure you all have seen and heard this article before. It's been all over the news. Caitlin Clark's flopping isn't just annoying, it's becoming dangerous. This is an opinion piece, again, put out by Nancy Armour and USA Today. The editors approved this article by Nancy Armour to be published on July 26th or July 22nd, 2026, right? This article was approved. So we're going to skip all this stuff. She talks about her flopping. She's not a Caitlin Clark hater. She's an electrifying player. Blah, 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 blah. So Caitlin Clark flops. Now, before I get into this, Caitlin Clark flops because whistles are not blown for her. She gets mauled, grabbed, hugged, pinched, lack of freedom of movement, and these opponents get away with it. They don't blow the whistle. So now Caitlin Clark has to exaggerate her fouls to get the ref's attention, right? Do I like it? No, I don't like flopping. I don't like that she has to do it. I don't like it at all. It's not a good look. Do I understand why she does it? Hell yeah, because I would do the same damn thing if players are getting away with what they're doing with her. It's insane what players can do because they can't defend her outright. They can't defend her one-on-one, so they resort to physicality, and the refs let them get away with it. But if Caitlin Clark pokes someone, just touches someone, just ever so slightly, she gets called for a foul, right? So that's a difference. That's why, in my opinion, Caitlin Clark exaggerates when she gets fouled because she has to. Otherwise, there will be no whistle blown for her, right? So this is what Nancy says about her flopping. Rants and histrionics put opponents at risk. It seems there is a white nationalist faction to Clark's fandom that is deeply problematic, made even more so because the WNBA is made up of predominantly of Black women, many of them queer. When Clark claims fouls that don't exist, they actually do exist, Miss Nancy. When she goes on profanity-laced tirades at referees, those racists see her as a white woman in need of saving and take matters into their own hands. Then she goes on to talk about the Alyssa Thomas incident. After Phoenix Mercury forward Alyssa Thomas was charged with flagrant 2 foul on Clark after the fact, not in the moment, right? So keep that in mind. Alyssa Thomas received death threats and called on the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, to act. For her part in a July 3 interview, Clark condemned the harassment, the hate that has followed her on-court altercations since she entered the league. The last thing I want to read in this article is this last bit here. It shouldn't need reminding, this country has an awful history of Black people being harmed, even unalived, in the name of defending white women. The irony of the WNBA's All-Star Game is that it's happening this weekend in Chicago. Again, this happened a couple weeks ago. The hometown of Emmett Till, who became an icon of the civil rights movement after his tragic unaliving. While it's incumbent on the WNBA to do more to protect its players, there also should be an expectation on Clark to recognize the broader implications of her actions being weaponized. So again, we're talking about a basketball player and flopping, right? This whole thing is on Caitlin Clark flopping, being compared to Emmett Till, her flopping. But it's incumbent on a 24-year-old to condemn all the racism around the world. It's her responsibility and her responsibility alone, right? That's what's happening here. And while no one should receive death threats, why is it incumbent on Kathy Engelbert to condemn online activity where Caitlin Clark has had a stalker who's currently in jail in real life, right? In person, in real life. She's received threats. She's the one that got throw punched by Alyssa Thomas mid-game, right? And nothing was even called on that. The play continued. There was not even a foul called at all. The game continued. The refs did not blow the whistle during that whole exchange when Alyssa Thomas slid her knee into Caitlin Clark's groin, throat punched her. DeWanna Bonner got involved. All that happened. Not one whistle was blown. Not even a common foul. They called a flagrant foul after the fact. That's the problem, right? But then they called on Caitlin Clark to condemn the violence, the online violence against Alyssa Thomas. How about someone asked, hey, how are you doing after a knee to the groin and a fist to your neck? How are you doing? How are you holding up, right? Not one time has anyone asked about Caitlin Clark. It's just about Caitlin Clark coming to everyone else's defense, right? So then you have this other article that came out, again, from Nancy. USA Today updates Nancy Armour's Caitlin Clark column after backlash, right? And this is a story by Front Office Sports. Now, obviously, she was going to get backlash, but listen to Nancy try to walk this back. USA Today is addressing a controversial column by Nancy Armour on Wednesday about Caitlin Clark that invoked unaliving of Emmett Till while linking some of Clark's fan base to white nationalists. Now we're gonna circle back to that and why I'm covering this from a marketing perspective, which should be obvious at this point, but let's continue here. So Front Office Sports says Nancy is a sports columnist and her column is clearly labeled opinion. Please note that the column has been updated for clarity and Nancy has addressed the matter here and below. So here is what she says. In my recent column, I made an inartful comparison with the unaliving of Emmett Till. I intended to connect the issues the WNBA is currently facing with its All-Star Game being hosted in Till's hometown of Chicago. I obviously did not provide enough context for that, wrote Armour. However, this point stands. There is a history in this country of perceived threats to white women being weaponized against African Americans and the danger that poses to Black players in the league. This is getting tiring. Players have been abused online and have received death threats. That has to be taken more seriously. She added, I sincerely regret that my lack of appropriate context is overshadowing that important conversation and the actions that need to be taken by the WNBA to address it directly for the benefit of all in caps players, right? So the thing is that you don't think Caitlin Clark is receiving threats online? She absolutely is. Probably more so than all these other players. While no threats or online discourse is good to any level, but again, she's had stalker and death threats in real life. Someone is in jail, went to court for stalking and threatening Caitlin Clark in real life. No one has yet to even ask her about that. And this happened last year, right? So she has to speak up for everyone else, but no one speaks up for her. It's okay if she gets hate. It's okay if she gets abused on the court. But then she has to be the hero and the abuser is now the victim, right? So this is a problem. Kathy Engelbert has spoken up against online hate. There are things happening on the court in real life in real time that she has been silent about. Specifically when it comes to her star player who is drawing the eyeballs to this sport, to this game, to this league. And all of her fans, Indiana Fever fans, have been called racists, now white nationalists, responsible for all the hate in the league. It's their fault. Meanwhile, Indiana Fever fans go to Seattle Storm games in Seattle and they get spit on. Little girls get yelled at by the co-owner to put their sign down. Meanwhile, the person sitting next to them can hold their sign because she agrees with their sign. And then you have grown men yelling at other little Indiana Fever fans, teenagers, right? In real life. In real life. And Kathy Engelbert has not condemned that, but she conducted an all-out investigation in Indiana for racist fans making racist noises at a game that didn't happen, right? She was quick to jump on that, but she has not spoken out not one time this year. And all these things have happened just in the last month, just in the last 30 days, right? Just in the last 30 days, and she's been silent. She's been silent. The WNBA has been in mainstream media more in the last 30 days than they have been in the last 3 years. Heck, in the last 30 years, right? They've been in mainstream media more in the last 30 days than they have in the last 3 years. And it's all negative. All of it. Right? And then let's not even talk about the recent Dejanay Carrington and Sophie Cunningham incident where Dejanay Carrington all out clothesline and knocked her block off while Sophie Cunningham was going for a layup. She got up with a bloody mouth. Dejanay Carrington was called for a flagrant 2, was ejected from the game, rightfully so. Boom, done. But no, she goes back to the locker room, says white privilege at Indiana Fever. Has she been suspended or fined for those comments? No. And this is the problem, right? Anything can happen against Indiana Fever, their fans, Caitlin Clark. It's okay because it's them. It's okay. Anything goes. That's the perception. And that's what mainstream media is picking up on because the WNBA media is garbage and they don't cover the news, right? They're part of the problem. So now mainstream media is picking it up and it's all negative, right? So how do you expect to draw in more fans when these more fans who are watching mainstream media seeing everything that's happening? And then Indiana Fever fans can't go to away games now because they're going to be spit on? Are they going to be yelled at by the owners of the team? By other fans? This is how you lose fans. And this is the biggest marketing failure of any sports league in my lifetime. You have a superstar in Caitlin Clark who is drawing eyeballs to your league, and you have done nothing but condemn her and her fans since she came into the league. And it's only gotten worse in 2026. You would think they would have learned. You would think they would have embraced it, and they would have figured it out by now. It's year 3. They still have yet to figure it out. And they're going to lose all their fans, right? This isn't to say that Indiana Fever fans are the only fans in the league, right? Of course not. Of course not. But what I'm saying is you have one of the largest fan bases and you've done nothing but knock them down, and now you're actually spitting on them and making them not want to go to games at all because now they have to fear backlash from the opponent team's fan base. And this is happening in real life and real time, in game. When you have Kathy Engelbert and her cronies condemning online stuff, what about stuff that's happening in your league in real life? She's been silent. And that's why I'm covering this. And that's what makes me upset about it, because I am a basketball fan, and just watching the failures of this league from the top down is absolutely mind-boggling. It is a political league before basketball. Every single player has said that. Even Stephanie White, the Indiana Fever, says that. This league is about inclusion, activism, and all that good stuff. Basketball is last, right? But people aren't here for the politics. We're here for the basketball. And that's the marketing failure. These things need to be addressed. The Indiana Fever have done a better job at marketing with putting CC on the flyers and graphics and all that stuff, because they haven't done that right. Or even the WNBA hasn't gotten that right in the last 2 years. Finally, this year, they seem to learn that you put your biggest star on your marketing materials. So they finally figured that out 3 years later, but they still haven't figured anything else out. And this league is going to fail. If this doesn't come to a stop, this league is going to fail. You want to be in mainstream media, but you want to be in mainstream media for all the right reasons, not all the wrong reasons. And over these last 30 days, just in this last month, it's been all of the wrong reasons. And I don't see it getting any better. They are having an emergency meeting to define what a woman is. I would just leave that there. Okay? That is how far gone things have gotten. That now you have ex-NBA players declaring for the WNBA draft because the WNBA doesn't know what the W in NBA stands for. And now you have ex-NBA players who are threatened to enter the draft in 2027 for the women's woke, whatever that W stands for now, National Basketball Association. That is where this league currently is. And if this continues, that CBA, that media rights deal, and everything else that this league has going on is going to slowly slip away, because these sponsors and these backers, especially the TV, the Ions, the TNT, and the ABC and the NBC, like all these TV sponsors, they're not in this business to lose money. They're in this business to make money. And if this continues and their ratings aren't reflecting what they should, there's no way they're going to continue to sponsor this league and to allow them space on their air, on their TV station. If this continues, they have every right to back out. And if this continues, I don't see why they wouldn't back out. Any business owner who's in it for money, they're not in it to lose money. And if they're not seeing a return on their investment, there's no reason for them to stay. And I don't see them staying, not in this current state, not with the product that's currently being played on their TV broadcasts. I will be highly shocked if there's zero backlash from these TV owners, from these networks, to Kathy Engelbert and Adam Silver. I'll be highly surprised. They need to get their act together, or they're going to start losing their sponsors. They're going to start losing their media rights deal. And this CBA, there's an out clause. I guarantee you, in every contract, there is an out clause. I have contracts for the service I provide for my clients. There is always an out clause. So you better bet your bottom dollar that there is an out clause in this CBA. That they are not stuck in this CBA for the next however many years. There is an out clause. I'll be highly surprised if this contract was written in a way to where their hands are tied and they're trapped in this contract for 4 or 5 years. There is, I guarantee you, there is an out clause in that CBA. And I guarantee you that these owners, these WNBA owners and the backers of this CBA, I guarantee you there is no way they could be happy with what's been going on in this league in the last 30 days or longer. So I don't know. They have to get their shit together, or this league is in terrible trouble. And as a marketer myself and a business owner myself, I honestly don't know how Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA is going to dig themselves out of this hole, because they let it go so deep. They let this hole get so deep that I don't know how they are going to get out of it. I just don't know how they're going to get out of it, because they should have nipped it in the butt sooner, but because they didn't, and now we're here to now we have NBA players declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027, which is now forcing Kathy Engelbert and her cronies to have an emergency meeting to define what a woman is. Like, that's how you know this league is gone and there's no coming back. I am so curious and interested what this league is going to do to dig themselves out of this hole that they've gotten themselves in, because I tell you, it's not going to be easy, and I don't know how they're going to do it. But I'm just going to sit back, relax, watch it all unfold. But it's this 2026 season. It's been very disappointing, because I would think in year 3 they would have figured it out by now, but it's only gotten worse. And who could have imagined it could have gotten any worse in 2024? But here we are. So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Do you watch the WNBA? Did you watch it when it first started? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Keep it respectful, of course. Other than that, stay tuned for future videos and have a happy and healthy day. See you later.